Today, we're diving into a story. It's a researcher's transformative journey right into the heart of what it means to be human. It's wild because it all starts with this quest to control and predict all the messy parts of life. And it ends up completely flipping our understanding of what truly connects us on its head. Stories are just data with a soul. Man, this quote from researcher Brené Brown just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly sets up the big conflict we're going to unpack. This huge clash between cold, hard numbers and, the messy, chaotic, beautiful reality of just being a person. So let's meet our protagonist. She calls herself a researcher-storyteller. And early on, she had this mantra drilled into her by a professor. If you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. That became her whole mission, right? To take all the complicated stuff about being human and just simplify it, control it. And here's that core conflict, laid out plain and simple. Her whole academic field was kind of like, hey, life is messy, just embrace it. But her goal? Totally the opposite. She wanted to clean up the mess, organize it, and stick it in a neat little box. And it's this deep need to control the chaos of human connection that really kicks off our story. So she sets out to study connection, the one thing that gives our lives purpose and meaning. But right away, something strange starts happening. She'd ask people about love, and they would tell her about heartbreak. She'd ask about belonging, and they'd share these painful stories of being excluded. It turned out the road to connection was actually paved with stories about its exact opposite, disconnection. Okay, so she's only 6 weeks into this whole project, and bam, she hits a wall. There's this thing that keeps popping up in her data over and over again. She can't name it, but whatever it is, it's just systematically unraveling human connection. She literally had to put everything on pause to figure out what this incredibly powerful destructive force was. And that force? It was shame. At its core, shame is simply the fear of disconnection. It's that deep, universal feeling that if people really saw us for who we are, they'd decide we aren't worthy of belonging. It's that little voice inside all of us that whispers, I'm not good enough. And right at the heart of shame, she found what she called excruciating vulnerability. Think about it. To truly connect, we have to let ourselves be seen. For a researcher whose whole life was about controlling and predicting things, this was, she hated it. So she thought, okay, I'll spend a year on this. I'll figure it out, take it apart, and beat it with data. Well, that 1 year, it turned into 6 years and thousands of pieces of data. So after all that time, 6 long years, she finally makes this massive breakthrough. She divides all the people she interviewed into 2 groups. In one, you've got the people with a really strong sense of love and belonging. In the other, the people who are constantly struggling to find it. And she realized there was only one single variable that separated these 2 groups. And this is it. This is the big one. The only difference was that the people who lived what she called wholeheartedly, they simply believed they were worthy of love and belonging. That's it. It wasn't something they had to earn or achieve. It was a core belief they held about themselves. So when she dug deeper into this wholehearted group, she found they all had 3 things in common. First, they had the courage to be imperfect. They were okay with not having it all together. Second, they had compassion. They were kind to themselves first, which in turn made it possible to be kind to other people. And third, their connections were real. They were a result of their authenticity. They just let go of who they thought they were supposed to be and embraced who they actually were. Now, this idea of courage is so important, and she makes a really clear distinction here. This isn't about being a hero or bravery in the face of danger. The word courage actually comes from the Latin word cor, which means heart. So the original definition was about telling the story of who you are with your whole heart. It's a courage that is rooted in vulnerability. You can imagine this discovery completely shattered her world. I mean, her entire academic mission was to control and predict. And now her own data was telling her the only way to really live is to let go of controlling and predicting. She had a total breakdown. Or, as her therapist more generously put it, a spiritual awakening. And this brings us to a choice that we all have to make every single day. We live in a world that is inherently vulnerable and uncertain. So what do we do about it? Do we try to numb ourselves to it all? Or do we dare to actually be vulnerable? So let's look at those 2 paths. On one side, we have all our numbing tactics. Things like demanding certainty, I'm right, you're wrong, or perfectionism, or just blaming everyone else for our discomfort. Or, literally having a couple beers and a banana nut muffin. But then there's the other path, the acts of real vulnerability, like saying I love you first, or investing your heart in a relationship that might not work out, or waiting for that call from the doctor, or just asking for help.
But here's the catch with trying to numb everything. You can't pick and choose which emotions to turn off. When we numb the bad stuff, the fear, the shame, the disappointment, we also numb the good stuff. We numb our ability to feel joy, gratitude, and happiness. And that just throws us into this awful cycle where we feel miserable, so we numb more, which of course makes us feel even more miserable.
Okay, so what does this mean for us in our actual lives? Let's bring this down to earth and see how it plays out in two really important areas, parenting and how we operate at work. For any parents listening, this is absolutely huge. Our job isn't to raise perfect children. It's to look them in the eye and say, you know what? You're imperfect and you are wired for struggle, just like the rest of us. But you are worthy of love and belonging, period, no matter what. And think about our workplaces. That same desperate need for certainty, it almost always leads to a culture of blame. It's just an easy way for us to discharge pain and discomfort. But what we really need from our leaders and our companies isn't pointing fingers. It's authenticity. It's that simple but incredibly vulnerable statement, we're sorry, we'll fix it. So when you boil it all down, all the research, all the thousands of stories, it all points to one central, incredibly powerful idea. It's about how we can finally stop screaming, stop screaming at the world and at ourselves and just start listening. So, how do we actually do this? The research points to 4 things we can practice. First, to let ourselves be seen, like deeply seen for who we really are. Second, to love with our whole hearts, even though there are absolutely no guarantees. Third, to practice gratitude and joy, especially when we're terrified. And fourth, and this is the foundation for everything else, we have to believe that we are enough. Look, at the end of the day, the goal isn't to get rid of vulnerability. You can't. It's impossible. The real goal is to reframe how we see it. Because that feeling of being vulnerable, of being exposed and uncertain, that's the proof that you're alive. It's the sign that you're actually showing up for your life. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. What would actually change for you if you could stop all the screaming and the striving and the constant need to prove yourself and just start listening? To yourself, to the people you love. What would happen if you did that simply because you chose to believe right here and right now, I am enough?